She sold our marriage for $1,000, and I didn't even get a refund. 7 years, 3 of them married, and she traded all of it for $1,000 and a night with her ex. The worst part? I didn't even get angry. I just felt free. It was a Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday that feels like a filler episode in the sitcom of your life. Bland, forgettable, a little too quiet. I was loading the dishwasher because yes, in our household, I was the one who gave a damn about mold and coffee mugs when I saw the text pop up on her phone. I wasn't snooping. It just lit up right there on the counter. Innocent. Bright. Like a warning flare you don't notice until it's already too late. Got the money. Worth every penny winking face. I didn't react. Not right away. I just stood there, a wet fork in my hand, heart slowing to a crawl like it knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. I've always hated emojis, but that winking face felt like a slap. I set the fork down. My mouth was dry. And my first thought, God help me, was maybe she sold something. Like that stupid handbag she never used. Or her old iPhone. Not her dignity. Not our marriage. But that thought didn't last long. Not once I opened the thread. It was her ex. Of course it was. The guy who used to message her every couple of months like a ghost popping in to remind her he existed. She always told me he was harmless. Like a snake with no venom. I believed her because believing her was easier than admitting I had doubts. The rest of the messages filled in the blanks I didn't want. Apparently, $1,000 buys you a weekend's worth of nostalgia-fueled betrayal. Dinner. Hotel. Some cheap champagne and a poor man's fantasy of what intimacy used to be. I read the details in silence. My jaw locked so tight it hurt. Here's the real kicker. She never planned on telling me. There were no teary confessions, no guilt-ridden apologies. Just that smug little text to her ex, a high five across the bed they'd just defiled. I didn't confront her right away. Not because I didn't care, at least, not then, but because I needed to know why. What makes someone throw away years for a pile of cash that couldn't even cover rent? Turns out, she'd been feeling bored. That's what she said when I finally brought it up. Bored. Like our marriage was a TV show that stopped being interesting after season 3. 7 years, and she was scrolling through the channels for something new. The conversation was surreal. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. She just looked at me with this calm, detached face, like she was already living in the aftermath of the decision. I didn't think it'd matter, she said. It was just sex. He offered the money, and I was curious. Curious. Like you're curious about how pineapple tastes on pizza or what it's like to skydive. Not how it feels to break a vow. I asked her if she needed the money. She said no. We weren't broke. We weren't even struggling. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about control, power, ego, and maybe a little bit of revenge for all the things I never even realized I'd done wrong. But the strangest part? I didn't feel rage, or betrayal, or even sadness. I felt weightless. Like a stone had been yanked from my chest and suddenly I could breathe again. I realized something right there, as she sat across from me, arms folded, waiting for me to yell or cry or fall apart. I was done. I wasn't heartbroken. I was free. And God, that scared me more than anything she'd done. I slept on the couch that night, not because I was angry, but because I didn't want her breath near mine. Her scent had become something I associated with dishonesty. Vanilla shampoo, cherry chapstick, and now deceit. She didn't try to follow me. She just shut the bedroom door. That was it. 7 years, and we couldn't even muster a proper fight. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it was mocking me for ever thinking we had something permanent. I thought about the trips we'd taken. The first time she said, "I love you," after drinking too much red wine. The way she used to wake me up just to say she missed me, even though I was right there beside her. And now she was the same person, but she wasn't. Like someone had climbed inside her skin and worn it like a costume. And maybe the cruelest part? I wasn't sure when the switch had happened. By morning, something inside me had gone silent. Not numb, just quiet. Like a courtroom after the verdict's been read. No more debate. No more defense. I made coffee. Black. No sugar. I didn't ask her if she wanted any. When she came into the kitchen, she looked at me the way you look at a roommate you don't like but still have to share a fridge with. I wondered if she regretted it. If she'd replayed the night with her ex and realized the money wasn't worth the way I didn't look at her anymore. She asked if I was going to work. I said yes. She asked if we could talk later. I said maybe. But deep down, I already knew. We were done. And for the first time in years, that thought didn't terrify me. It felt like the first honest truth we'd shared in a long, long time. The morning after I found out, I went to work like nothing happened. I sat through meetings, answered emails, nodded when someone cracked a joke. I even laughed once, out of sync, too loud, the way someone laughs when they're trying not to scream. I told no one. Not my coworkers, not my brother, not even my best friend of 20 years. It felt too surreal to say out loud. Like if I told someone, it would solidify into something permanent. As long as it lived only in my head, it was still shapeless, still somewhat deniable. But I knew. She cheated. For money. With someone she told me not to worry about. And now I couldn't stop thinking about all the times I hadn't worried. All the nights she was just out with the girls, or those quick glances at her phone she thought I didn't notice. I never checked. I wasn't that guy. But maybe I should have been. When I got home that evening, something had changed. Our apartment felt unfamiliar, like a stage set someone forgot to clean up after the play was over. The couch where we binge-watched entire seasons. The coffee table where we played cards during blackouts. Even the photos on the wall, they looked like someone else's life. She was sitting at the dining table, a legal pad in front of her, like we were about to divide assets instead of memories. "I want to talk," she said. I nodded. Not because I wanted to hear her, but because I wanted to know how far she'd go to pretend she still had something to say that mattered. She started with, "I made a mistake." Classic. Safe. But the kind of phrase people use when they drop a glass, not when they shatter someone's sense of reality. I let her talk. About how she didn't think I'd ever find out. About how her ex just showed up, and she wasn't in her right mind. About how the money wasn't really the point. No, it wasn't the point. But it sure made the betrayal easier to price. When she paused, waiting for me to speak, I asked her one question. "If I hadn't seen the message, would you have told me?" She hesitated. That silence was the most honest thing she'd said in days. "No," she finally admitted. "I was going to let it go. I thought I could live with it. Live with it." She thought she could wake up next to me every day, kiss me goodbye, make plans for the future, and live with it. That was the moment I knew we weren't just broken. We were beyond repair. I told her I needed space. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam anything. I didn't cry. I just stood up and grabbed a small duffel bag from the closet. She asked me where I was going. "I don't know," I said. "Somewhere that doesn't feel like a lie." She didn't follow me. Not that night. Not the next. I stayed in a motel down the road, ugly carpet, humming AC, the kind of place that smells like lemon-scented bleach and loneliness. But at least it was real. That weekend, I sat with myself. No TV. No phone. Just me, the ceiling, and the thoughts I'd been trying to outrun. I thought about how long she'd been emotionally gone. How many conversations we'd had where she was only half listening. The way she flinched when I touched her shoulder. The small things that, in hindsight, were massive red flags disguised as routine. And slowly, the realization settled over me like dusk. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd left a long time ago. She just waited for me to notice. The motel had a vending machine in the hallway, mostly stale chips and off-brand soda. I didn't eat much that weekend. Not because I was heartbroken. Just unmotivated. Food felt like a luxury for people who weren't processing betrayal. On the second night, I pulled out my phone and stared at her name in my contacts. I didn't call. I didn't text. But I stared long enough to feel the weight of that silence between us harden into something permanent. 7 years. 3 of them married. It's wild how people think time is what makes a relationship real. It's not. Time just gives you more material to grieve when it ends. I started thinking about the beginning, our first date at that sushi place neither of us could afford. How we got drunk on cheap sake and ended up dancing to a busker's guitar in the street. We were poor, spontaneous, messy, and stupidly in love. But something happened along the way. We got comfortable. Not the good kind of comfortable, the lazy kind. The kind that lets problems simmer just below the surface because you'd rather avoid the fight. And she needed chaos to feel alive. I was stability. Predictable. Reliable. Steady as a metronome. She craved a malfunction. And her ex? He was the crash. The detour. She couldn't scratch with me anymore. By Monday morning, I knew what I had to do. Not revenge. Not confrontation. Just release. I went back to the apartment that afternoon. She was there, sitting cross-legged on the couch, phone in hand, but not scrolling. Just staring blankly at the wall. When she saw me, she looked surprised. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Just like she'd forgotten I existed for a few days. "I'm moving out," I said. Calm. Clear. Irreversible. She blinked, like I'd spoken in another language. But she didn't stop me. She just nodded. And that, more than anything, told me I was making the right choice. She sat on the couch the whole time I packed. Legs tucked under her like she was watching a storm roll in through the window, not part of it, just mildly inconvenienced by the thunder. No offers to help. No last-ditch, "we can fix this." Just that same damn expression she wore when the Wi-Fi cut out during a show. Mild disappointment. Inconvenience. I didn't take much. A couple bags of clothes. My shaving kit. Laptop. The hoodie I liked sleeping in because it still smelled like home. Everything else felt infected. Even the air. She asked one question as I zipped up the second duffel. "Where will you go?" It hit me then. She didn't ask because she cared. She asked because she needed to fill the silence with something. Like a line in a play she didn't believe in anymore. "I'll figure it out." And I meant it. I had no plan, no lease, no couch lined up. Just the overwhelming urge to not be here. She watched me carry the first bag to the door. Still didn't move. I half expected her to snap, to scream, to cry, to throw something. But no. She just picked at the hem of her sweater and stared at the rug like it might swallow her whole. I came back for the second bag. That's when she finally said it. I didn't think it would ruin us. She said it like she was reading the back of a cereal box. Like it was just a passing thought she'd been meaning to say aloud. I didn't respond. Because what do you even say to that? She sold our marriage for $1,000. $1,000. That's not even a full month's rent. Not even a decent vacation. Not even enough to feel special. And yet it cost us everything. As I opened the door to leave, she added, "You're not even angry." She said it with a little bitterness, like my lack of rage was somehow worse than what she did. I turned back for a moment and said the first honest thing I told her in months. I was angry. For about 30 seconds. And then I realized, I've been more alone with you than I will ever be without you. She flinched. Just slightly. It was the only visible crack in that frozen lake of hers. But I didn't wait to watch it spread. The hallway outside our apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and dust. I stood there for a second, bag in hand, and finally exhaled. It wasn't just a marriage ending. It was the death of a version of myself I didn't need anymore. The loyal husband. The patient forgiver. The guy who thought love meant endurance. I got into my car and sat there, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead like I was waiting for a green light that would never come. Then I turned the key and drove. No destination. No map. Just away. I didn't go far that first night. Just parked in a grocery store lot and sat there until the dashboard clock said something absurd like 2:43 a.m. I was too wired to sleep, too numb to think. So I drove again. Found a 24-hour diner. One of those places with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress who looks like she's seen every kind of broken man and learned to stop asking questions. I ordered pancakes. Couldn't taste a damn thing. There was a couple in the corner booth, probably mid-20s, drunk and in love, playing footsie under the table like teenagers. I hated them for a minute. Not because they had something I lost. Because they hadn't yet. I wanted to walk over and say, enjoy it now. One day, she'll trade you for a man who knows her weak spots. And if you're lucky, she'll only charge him $1,000. Instead, I paid for my untouched pancakes and left a tip bigger than the bill, just to feel like I still had something generous left in me. I ended up crashing at a friend's place. Alex, my old roommate from college. He took one look at me, bleary-eyed at 4 a.m., and just opened the door wider. Didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer and a blanket. When I told him the next morning, his reaction was exactly what mine hadn't been. Explosive, profane, furious on my behalf. He was ready to torch the apartment and send the ashes to her in a box marked cheap lesson. I told him not to bother. I didn't want revenge. I wanted detachment. It's strange how quickly peace can grow in the ruins of something you thought you couldn't live without. 3 weeks. That's how long it took before her name stopped lighting up my phone. No texts. No calls. No angry rants or weepy apologies. Just absence. Cold, vast, and oddly comforting. I moved in with Alex for a while. His spare room smelled like old books and gym socks, but it was mine. Untouched by betrayal. No ghosts hiding in the sheets. Just a crooked lamp, a twin bed, and the sound of someone else's normal life happening beyond the door. I worked, ate, slept, repeated. The kind of routine that keeps your hands busy while your soul stitches itself back together in silence. People at the office noticed. Of course they did. I'd always been the dependable one. The guy with the packed lunch and the wedding ring and the polite laugh. Now I was the man with hollow eyes and too many sick days. One of my coworkers, Jenna, left a sandwich on my desk one day. No note. No pitying look. Just a silent offering. It almost made me cry. Not because of her kindness, but because of how unfamiliar kindness felt. Then, on a random Wednesday, it happened. She called. Not my ex-him. Her ex. The man she cheated with. His voice was shaky. Nervous, like a teenager calling his girlfriend's dad by mistake. I'm sorry, man, he started. I didn't say anything. I didn't know she was still with you. I mean, she said things were over. That you guys were separated. She didn't tell me. I hung up. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I did. It didn't make it better. It didn't undo what she did. But it added a layer to the story, a layer of pathetic manipulation I hadn't expected. She lied to both of us. Impressive, really. She'd managed to burn 2 bridges with 1 match and still somehow think she was the victim. The next day, I got an email. From her. Subject line, closure. I almost laughed. Closure? What did she think this was, a canceled subscription? The message was long. Rambling. A mix of justification and confession. She said she never thought I'd leave. That part hit harder than anything else. She really believed I would just stay. Swallow it. Forgive. As if my self-worth had an off switch. She said she missed me. That she couldn't sleep. That she still made coffee for 2 out of habit and poured mine down the sink like a ritual. She said the money didn't mean anything, and that she'd give it back if it could undo what happened. But here's the thing about value. You can't refund betrayal. There's no return policy on dignity. I didn't reply. I just archived the email and moved on. 2 days later, Jenna invited me out for drinks with a group from work. I went. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just said yes. The bar was loud, comfortable, filled with people pretending their lives were more put together than they really were. We drank. We laughed. And at some point, Jenna touched my arm when she leaned in to tell a joke. It wasn't flirty, just familiar, human. But I froze, because my body still thought affection came with a price tag. I stayed until closing, walked her to her car. She hugged me before getting in, and I stood there afterward, watching her tail lights disappear like something out of a cliché I no longer believed in. Back at Alex's, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering how long it would take before trust didn't feel like a loaded word. I wasn't ready for anything new. I knew that. But I wasn't broken either. Just scraped raw and healing quietly beneath the surface. A week later, I started therapy. Not because I couldn't function, but because I wanted to understand why I had ignored the signs. Why I had allowed my love for someone to blindfold me while she lit the fuse. The therapist, Linda, didn't give me answers. She gave me questions. The good kind. The ones that make your stomach twist. Why do you think you didn't get angry? She asked one session. I thought about that for a while. Then I told her the truth. Because deep down, I was waiting for her to leave. I just didn't expect her to charge for it. Linda didn't flinch. She just nodded, and I swear that one gesture felt like permission to stop carrying shame that didn't belong to me. I started running again. Something about pounding the pavement in the early morning cold made me feel like I was outrunning the version of myself who would have stayed. The one who would have forgiven. He was dying, and I wasn't mourning him. 6 months. That's how long it took before I could say her name without tasting rust in my mouth. Before the memory of her didn't slam into me like a truck when I passed by that sushi place we loved, or heard that song she used to hum while folding laundry. Funny, the things that linger. Pain has a long shelf life. But so does peace, if you let it. I didn't date. Not seriously. Not for a while. I went out, sure. Drinks, laughs, a few first kisses that felt like trying on a jacket that didn't quite fit. Nothing wrong with the people, I just wasn't there yet. My therapist said that was good. That waiting is healing when it's intentional, not fear-based. And she was right. I wasn't afraid of love. I was just tired of letting people into places they hadn't earned the right to touch. My ex texted me once a month for, just, can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Not out of temptation, but out of curiosity. I wondered what kind of story she was telling herself now. Maybe that it was all a misunderstanding. That the money didn't mean anything. That I was cold for leaving. People rewrite their guilt into stories where they're the tragic hero. She was no exception. I deleted the text without replying. That same week, I saw her accidentally. I was walking out of the bookstore downtown, and she was across the street, holding a cup of coffee, talking to someone I didn't recognize. She didn't see me, and I didn't hide. I just watched her for a moment, not out of longing, not even bitterness, just recognition. Like seeing an old photo and realizing the person you were then wouldn't even recognize the person you are now. She looked the same, but I didn't feel like her husband anymore. I didn't even feel like her ex. I felt like a stranger who had survived something. Alex and I eventually stopped being roommates. He met someone, moved in with her, gave me a big hug when I left and said, "You're not the same guy who showed up crying at 4 a.m. I wasn't. I moved into a small one-bedroom. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I bought my own dishes, chose my own shower curtain, picked out a rug that didn't match anything, but made me happy. The first night there, I cooked pasta, poured a glass of wine, and ate dinner at my own table. Alone. In silence. And for the first time in years, that silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I don't think she'll ever understand what she really took from me. Not the trust. Not the loyalty. Not even the comfort of a familiar body beside me at night. She took the version of myself that believed love was something you endure, no matter the cost. And I'm grateful. Because that version of me was tired. Desperate. Afraid of starting over. Now, I am no longer afraid of starting over. I am afraid of settling again. Sometimes, I think back to that moment, her sitting on the couch while I packed. That still haunts me more than the cheating itself. Not the sex. Not the $1,000. But her silence. The absence of a fight. The quiet way she let me go, like I was never something worth holding on to. But now I see that silence for what it was, a gift. A mirror. Proof that I had already left her long before I walked out the door. It just took her betrayal to set my body in motion. $1,000. That's what it cost for her to show me who she really was. For her to release me without even realizing it. I used to want the money back. Not literally. Just symbolically. Like she owed me something. But now, I got something better. I got me back. Not the man who loved her blindly. The man who sees clearly. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.